All right. This is a topic that gets me flack all the time, pushback from poker players, because it goes against everything that they want to do. Large field poker tournaments will ruin your life unless you're playing for fun. By the end of this video, I will make a strong case for why you should focus on small field tournaments. You can still play a little bit of large field tournaments, but they can't be the brunt of your volume if you want to find steady success, even as a casual poker player. My name is Rob Gardner. I'm a 20+ year poker professional and poker coach. And a massive part of my success over the last 20 years has been in niching in small field tournaments. It's allowed me to survive through many difficult times where my friends have not, and it's helped me sustain this career for over 20 years. We all know how exciting it is to play in a big field with a lot of money up top. I recently came back from the WPT where I was fortunate enough to get a seat to the $5 million free mel. It had $1 million to first place. And I was fortunate enough to make day 2 and make a deep run, but I didn't come home with $1 million, and neither did 1,999 people who qualified for that event, because there was only one winner that got $1 million. In fact, second place was only $100,000. And herein lies the problem. While tournaments and poker are 100% skill games, absolutely, there is enough of a random element to it that variance plays a very large role in who wins and who loses. And people don't understand that variance is actually exponential. For those of you that absolutely hated your math classes growing up in high school and college, what that means is that as field sizes get larger, variance doesn't get larger at the same speed that field sizes do. It gets larger much, much faster. So the variance in a 200-person field is way larger than a 100-person field. And the variance in a 300-person field is way larger than a 200-person field, to the point, and people won't believe me when I say this, but anything over 400 people, no matter how good you are and no matter how soft the field is 100% a shot take. Now, for those of you that play tournaments fairly regularly, you probably know that your ROI is very largely dictated by how many times you finish the top 3. And most times your ROI is going to be largely dictated by your biggest scores. This makes winning tournaments pretty important. That's why having a really strong heads up game is so important as a tournament player. But all you need to do is spend a little time with a heads up sit and go specialist to find out that there is an insane amount of variance in just heads up play alone. A win rate of 55% of your heads up matches is really, 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 really good. And that means 45% of the time when you get heads up, you're going to lose, even as a great player. Imagine being heads up for $1 million and knowing that 45% of the time you're not going to win that $1 million no matter how hard you play. It's a scary proposition. To illustrate this, I put a simple simulation together where, as a winning poker player, you were 50% more likely to win any given tournament than the field or than the average. And then I ran out 1,000 tournaments at different field sizes. In 100-person field sizes, the odds of you not winning one tournament over 1,000, 0.00003%. It's infinitesimally small, meaning that if you just played 100-person fields and nothing else, the odds that you would not win a single tournament 1,000 basically doesn't exist. If we jump up to 400-person fields, the percentage rises to a modest 2.2% of the time you wouldn't get a win. That means 97% of the time over 1,000 tournaments, you're going to get at least one win, which is really going to help you stabilize that ROI. But if you go from 400-person fields to 1,000-person fields, the odds of you not winning a tournament go all the way up from 2% to 22%. And this is actually in the scenario where you are 50% more likely to win the tournament than the field, which many of us are not. I can remember numerous friends back in the late teens who would literally play 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 person fields every day. They would go an entire 6 months without getting a win, and their graph would just look like this. And then they would get a win eventually and make some money, and then they would go through another 6th to 9th month downswing before they hit their next score. I cannot think of anything more demoralizing than playing the game of poker 6 straight months, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and having nothing to show for it, and not knowing when that next score is going to come. And to be honest, most of my friends that were on that plan flamed out. They burned out. It was too much for them to take on. They didn't taste success often enough. And when they did taste success, oftentimes it was just enough to whet the appetite. It was just enough to make up for the last 6 months losses. It didn't elevate them or promote them to a place where they now were at a bigger bankroll or a new level of success or joy. And it just killed their drive for the game. Experiencing success in poker is so critically pivotal to our enjoyment and our growth in this game, and more importantly, our sustainability in this game, that if you're not on a path that allows you to experience semi-regular success, you are going to struggle. It is going to negatively impact the way you play, and that creates a feedback loop where you're not playing as well, so you're not getting as much success, so you're not playing as well, so you're not getting as much success. And yes, while we would all love to be perfect robots that are just emotionless human beings who can play flawless poker, none of us are. So what's the solution? Here's what I teach my students. Number one, your goal is to get 90% of your volume over the course of the year in fields of 400 people or less. That doesn't mean you have to panic the first time you play a tournament and it ends up having 600 people in them. You can get exposure to those large field tournaments, but they should be 10% or less of your overall volume. 400 seems to be a sweet spot in the variance calculators for how frequently you are going to realize your edge and how consistently you're going to be able to turn over results. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I cannot remember a single month in my poker career where I prioritized 400 person less fields and I didn't have a winning month. Not only is having shorter fields going to allow you to experience more success, but it's going to give you more practice in the later stages of tournaments, which is really, really important. If you only play large fields, you're only going to hit final tables once in a great while, which means you're only going to get practice and experience at being on final table bubbles and being final 6 and ICM and being final 3 and being heads up very rarely, and that makes it very difficult to become a master of that craft. By playing these smaller fields, you're going to make much more frequent final table runs, and that's going to give you a lot more practical experience, which is going to make you a better player at the stage of the tournament where the money is most critical. And aside from the obvious values of that, there is a huge thing that people don't realize. Bankroll equals opportunity. The more bankroll you have, the more tournaments you can play, the larger tournaments you can play, the more opportunities you have to take advantage of things like overlay and promotions. And when you're just playing large fields, you go long stretches without being able to put money in the bank. It depletes your bankroll, and that limits the opportunities you have to take advantage of great ROI opportunities. Imagine going to Vegas for a trip, but you're in a massive downswing, and then you find out that there's a $1,600 tournament at the Orleans that's overlaying. Be great to play it, but you're in this huge downswing, so you can't justify it. That's money out of your pocket. And when you continue to lose EV opportunities because your bankroll is limited, it keeps you confined and restrained from breaking out and moving up in your bankroll journey and having further opportunities. So the more steady you can bring in revenue and grow your bankroll, and the more opportunities you have the opportunity to access, the more you get to add to your bankroll, and that creates a positive feedback loop. If you're really good at game selection, you can find games at all stakes that are soft. You really can. So the more bankroll you have, the more you can make at this game. And very, very, very few of us have the bankrolls that we really want to have. And that makes finding that growth engine so critically important. Now, the third key, and I alluded to this before, is how much success will boost your play. We see it all the time where somebody comes in for the summer, they get a big score, their confidence is high, and then they rattle off 2, 3, 4 deep runs in a row because they're playing out of their mind, because they're so confident, they're trusting all of their reads, they're trusting their instincts, and they're dialed in. There is no doubt in my mind that success will make you a better poker player. So why wouldn't you want to taste that success frequently? Why wouldn't you want to have as consistent of a confidence level as possible by getting to taste deep runs on a very regular basis? Their answer is there's no reason you wouldn't want that. And some of you have to shift your mentality because you get so excited to play for the big money and so excited to play in the big fields that you don't find any enjoyment or excitement anymore in winning a 100 or 200 person field. I can't tell you how many students have been like, yeah, Rob, I get it, but that just bore. I don't get excited about that. I don't get out of bed for a $500 to first tournament. Why? If you can win two $500 to first tournaments 3 times as fast as you can win a $1,000 to first tournament, you're making more money. And then there's a decent chance that that money can unlock better opportunities to win a $1,000 to first tournament because you can start to move up a little bit in stakes. Now, again, if you purely play for fun and the money is immaterial, play whatever's going to be the most fun. Absolutely. Have a budget, be responsible, and go chase the wildest prize pools and dreams you can offer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But most poker players I talk to, even the ones who play part-time, want to win. They want to feel success. They want to not have to deposit all the time. And they wonder why they struggle so hard to find the success, but they're putting themselves in these 800,000, 1,500, 2,000 person fields where even if you play perfect poker, you're gonna have to win 10, 15, 20 flips to win a tournament. And that's just not gonna happen very often. And then on top of that, you might not play perfectly, especially some of these tournaments these days that go so incredibly long. Some of the largest field online tournaments can go 10, 12, 14, 16 hours, and even live tournaments. A lot of these live tournaments will have 14, 15-hour day ones. It is incredibly grueling. You owe it to yourself to get to taste that success, to get to have winners pictures, to get to win tournaments that put money back in your bankroll on a somewhat steady basis. If you can't remember the last time you won a tournament, it's been too long. It's time to drop down and shift your focus and find smaller fields. They're absolutely out there in live and they're absolutely out there online. You just have to be willing to go after them. Now, one question I want to answer that my students ask me a lot is, what about playing backed? If I play backed, should I tackle large field tournaments? Should I play the biggest prize pools? Should I just get backing and then go nuts? And the answer is no. I've played backed before. If you think that being backed magically just takes the pressure off and now allows you to take all of these shots and have this risk-free, I don't care mentality, you're 1,000,000% wrong. Because when you play backed and you start to go on a downswing and you start to go into makeup, there's an expectation that you're going to continue putting volume in to clear that makeup. And until you clear that makeup, you can't even make any money. Imagine getting 40K in makeup and then hitting a 30K score and not even being able to keep a dime of it. I've had friends that went so far into makeup, they hit their career high score, their biggest score of their entire career, and didn't get to keep 1 penny of it. All of us are going to have one day in our life that we run better on the poker table than any other day in our life. That's just practicality. You don't want that day to be a day where you're 60K in makeup and you have the greatest tournament of your life and all of that money is going to somebody else's pocket. The best way to leverage a staking deal is the same way you would leverage on your own dime. Keep the variance small, print slow and steady paychecks, and use that to leverage bigger opportunities in bigger prize pools with larger buy-ins that are still smaller fields. At the end of the day, the larger the field gets, the less your skill edge gets realized over the course of a tournament. So please, I'm begging you, I've had so many friends, careers die from chasing these tournaments and running up huge levels of makeup. Be smart, find small fields, make it a majority of your portfolio, 80, 90, 95% of your volume, and then mix in that 5 to 10% large fields. Take those shots because yes, one tournament could change your life. But if you want growth, if you want consistency, if you want your game and your bankroll to grow at some sort of steady rate, get into these smaller field tournaments. That's it on this topic. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you can get notifications when our new videos come out. I'd love to hear from you in the comments what you think about small field versus large field tournaments. Tell me I'm crazy if you want, but at the end of the day, I've been doing this for 20 years and there's no better way to do it than to prioritize these small fields. That's it for me. We'll see you guys soon.